If you had to tell one story that summed up who you were as a person, who you are for sure as a person, tell that story.
When I wake up every morning, I try and be more efficient than I was yesterday, and I try and be less of a piece of shit than I was yesterday. So if I can get answers to those two questions, I come out a better person at the end of it.
You can't put people in buckets, right? We all are a culmination of our experiences in our past and stuff like that, but we all have a brain, which kind of makes it hard for us to put anyone in a bucket because everyone is vastly different.
Welcome to No Universal Answers to the Universe, a video podcast and interview series with Taylor Hall and Kenneth Gibbons. Today is our second episode in the Universal Deep Dive series where we don't have a guest and we will go particularly into a single topic. Kenneth, what are we here to talk about today?
So today we're going to talk about how you find enjoyment in the little things in life and how you really focus on trying to keep a good morale and to pretty much try and make yourself just be happy on a daily basis. So that's kind of what we're focusing on today.
So let's start off kind of breaking our routines down. From sun up to sundown, I'm assuming we both have meals, gym, and work. But outside of that, what does your routine kind of manifest as?
So I vary a lot on a daily basis. So if I have to get into work early, I'll get up earlier in the morning. I try real hard to start my morning off with something that kind of gets me going. So like for me, that's anything from like music. So if I have a little bit of time in the morning, I'll like listen to specific music on the way to work. Um, like I don't know, like Sunrise by Childish Gambino or Beautiful Day by U2. It all like depends on what mood I am. Just something that like has like a really happy feel to it and then like gets me like going for the day. If I have a little bit more time, I'll get to work early. I'll go downstairs to Starbucks and I'll just sit and read for like 30 minutes to an hour. Just something that like separates me from pretty much everybody else. Something that like I can focus on. Kind of like I don't want to say meditation because I'm not really meditating, but for me, it's something that kind of centers and grounds me for the day. Um, I work obviously through the morning until lunch. Um, if I'm having a particularly bad day or rough day at work, I tend to put my headphones on and listen to music or listen to a podcast. Um, Again, something that separates me from the bad situations or whatever. And in construction, nothing ever goes as planned. So like, there's always things that pop up, but there are some days that are definitely worse than others where like, material didn't show up, owner's upset, your whatever, your superintendent is uh, maybe having an argument with a subcontractor and like you're trying to start another job and then your boss is on your tail about something else. So like things just start to pile up. And when you start, having a bad day or if I start seeing my day tend to go towards that route, I try to stop it, try to play some music or something like that. Um, During lunch, I always try and take an hour lunch and I try to get out of the office. So I try to split my day in half um, and try and reground myself or recenter myself. So again, most of the time I just go downstairs to Starbucks and read for an hour. Um, but there are times where like I want to be around people. So like I'll get one of my coworkers and we'll go whatever. Like yesterday, me and two of my coworkers who I'm really good friends with, we just went to a Chinese buffet and just pigged out for an hour and then or for like 30 minutes and then we went by the liquor store because they came over last night. So went and grabbed a bottle, but we were just pretty much hanging out and having a good time right in the middle of our day before we went back to work. Um, at the end of the day, I typically come home. I have about an hour before Tab gets home, and I'll like play a video game. I'll read. I'll listen to a podcast, or like if I need to clean, I'll clean and I'll play like I'll blast music on my Alexa in the living room and just jam out. Um, so that's pretty much it. And then me and Tab will like watch TV or something like that. I've been making a conscious effort over the last couple of weeks because it felt like we had fallen into a routine where we just like would watch Netflix until we went to bed every night. So like over the last couple of weeks, I've just surprised Tab and just like said, let's hop in the car and then we'll like go bowling, or hop in the car and we went to the melting pot on Thursday and had a nice dinner date, or like let's go to Starbucks and have we like to have book dates where we just go to Starbucks and just read together. Or like we'll go walk at Second and Charles and find discount books and stuff like that. So there's like things that just break up the monotony of the routine and just try and get you out of your comfort zone, which for some people would probably be very stressful, but for me, I really enjoy it. Um, and just focusing on those little things. So like, I don't know, at the melting pot, just just focusing on the moment, like putting our phones aside and just focusing on that moment with that person, right? Or like, for me, a lot of times it's literally just putting my phone down and whatever I'm doing, focusing on that. What about you?
So before we flip over to my routine, there's a couple tangents that I want to go off on. For at the beginning, you kind of listed that you don't personally meditate. What would you define as meditation?
Um, for so I guess the real definition is going to be probably way off base of what I'm about to say, but for me, meditating is just like finding, kind of like what Randy said last week, like finding your anchor. But to me, like not necessarily finding something that you're trying to pursue, right? Not trying to set a goal and accomplish it. For me, it's just like finding your center of gravity and being there in the moment, right? So, like I said, for me, a lot of times it's reading, listening to music, um, just trying to avoid outside influences, I guess. Just try and be in the moment where you're at, and just try and find that center of gravity.
Gotcha. There's no right or wrong answer to that. It's something that I've tried to pin down for a very long time. Personally, to try and clear out as much as possible, I'm a big fan of like white noise generators and stuff, not even using music, even if it's instrumentals, just to try and like putting on noise canceling headphones like these and physically blocking things out and then working through the thoughts that have piled up over the day, the week, or the month.
Okay. See, I see when I try and sit down like that, I I try not to focus on anything that's happened. I just try to like, I don't want to say avoid it or postpone it or anything like that. Just let it go. And so like for me, I'm always going, going, going. So like that's probably why I like to read so much, is because when you read, you just kind of escape everything else that's going on, right? And you go to this other place. I do listen to like white noise stuff when I go to bed because I help it like helps me let go of all that stuff, right? If I can't try and go to sleep if I'm reading, or I can't try and go to sleep if I'm doing these other things like listening to music, because I'll focus on the words and stuff like that and it'll keep me awake. But listening to white noise when I go to sleep does help because again, I let go of everything I'm thinking about and then just go to sleep. So
Now, to another one of your points at the beginning, you had mentioned listening to upbeat or energizing music on the way into work. Is it an artist or a genre or an emotion? What kind of gets you hyped in the morning? And then I'll speak to it as well.
it depends on my mood. So, and it depends on what I'm going to do. So if I'm going to the gym, I'm listening to like something that's like crazy upbeat, like I don't know, Flocka or something like that. Like when I'm going to the gym, like something that's like crazy upbeat. Um, if I am like going to work, it all, I don't know, it just all depends on my mood. I feel like so like there's certain songs that just always make me feel happy, right? Always exude that emotion. Like I said, like Childish Gambino, Sunrise, Beautiful Day by U2. Just there's songs like that. Um, I sent you one before at Little Talks by Of Monsters and Men. So if you look at those three songs, they're just vastly different genres of music by vastly different artists. So like it just all depends on my mood at the time and the mood that I'm trying to create as well. So um it's yeah, it's not really a particular like genre or anything like that that I listen to.
Gotcha. No, because I find I can't do too energetic of music on a drive into work, or it just kind of hits me the wrong way when I'm not fully awake and operational yet. I'm more of a calm enough to get me through, but not so calm that I fall asleep at the wheel kind of thing in the morning. And then I go towards angry and loud music when I need to concentrate, because it
Mm-hmm.
kind of forcefully puts up an emotional wall on all sides that it's just me and whatever task that I'm working on. I've
Okay.
found I don't listen to a lot of guitar driven stuff anymore, but that's when I end up going back to rock and metal, is when it's just headphones in, volume up, nobody talk to me, knock on the door if you need to kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. To each their own. I mean, there are mornings where I get up and I'm like going to the airport at 6 a.m. or whatever. I have to be at the airport at 6 a.m. or I'm sorry, 5 a.m. because I got to leave at 6 a.m. And I'll listen to lower stuff, or I'll listen to like an audio book because then I'll read on the plane and stuff like that. But there are definitely days where like I'm going to work and I know I have a ton of meetings and I need to have some sort of outlet. So then I'll just, I'll play like, I don't know, I'll play something like super upbeat on those days too, that just get me going and pumping, because I know I'm going to be sitting at my desk for most of the day and I'm not going to be able to do anything like that. There are days where I have 6 hours worth of meetings, so I can't even put my headphones in and listen to music to escape. So on those days I get really pumped. So I'll get into work and I'm like, "Hey John, how's it going, man? Hey Russ, what's up?" And they're like, "Hi." And, and I'm just like, I'm already, pumped and ready to go for the day. And because I know I need to get there because I'm going to be down here the rest of the day. So it just, like I said, it depends on my current mood and the mood I'm trying to set. So
I enjoy those kind of people in my office, as long as they're not like hey, working hard or hardly working, because I want to slap those people. But I do enjoy that level of energy when other people bring it in, because it is infectious. But
yeah.
so, do you build in bits of respite and recovery into your routine, or do you have a little alarm in your head that goes off that says, I need to take a step back and breathe at the next possible opportunity? How do you kind of approach stressors?
So it's both. So I do a good job of just not, I don't know, I let a lot of things just roll off my shoulders. I don't really hold on to stress in general. Um, but I do, and maybe it's the same thing and I just don't recognize it as the same thing. I do get frustrated, and I am very expressive. So there's things that I have, during my reviews at work, I've been told that it comes across two ways. If people know me, they take it as passion for what I do, because I really enjoy what I do and I love what I do. But for people who don't know me, it comes across as anger and aggressiveness. So I have tried to work on that over the course of the last 2 years. But um, sometimes you're just sitting at your desk and like everything's just going wrong, and then you get that phone call and you're like, hey, this other thing is now going wrong and you got to fix it, but you also got to sit in 6 hours worth of meetings today, and you're just like, fuck, and you just like, and it's funny because when you sit in our office, you'll hear, it'll be fairly quiet. They play music in the background, but it'll be fairly quiet, and it just all across the office, just sporadically, people will do that, just like fist in the desk, shit. And then like a lot of times your response is you laugh and you're just like, hey, so and so, everything good? Yeah, I just gotta figure this other problem out. You need help? Nah, I got it. I got it. But it's just like immediately letting go of it and then moving on, right? So like I do that, but I also like I said, I work in my lunch period. That's something that I worked into my schedule that I used to not do. I used to work through lunch sometimes, but I found that by like 2:30, 3 o'clock, my brain was mush. It's I can give you a very high intellectual output for 8 to 10 hours a day. I cannot do it for 8 to 10 consecutive hours.
Yeah.
I've found that if you want the best version of me, I need that little respite in between, right? And I try and break it up. I try and put it right in the middle of my day and break it up, um, because like I want to get the most out of my day. But there are times where like the other day we worked through lunch, I think Wednesday, and we got to 2:30 and I was having a conversation with my boss and I was trying to give him updates on something that I had done, and I couldn't even remember basic words like associate or accessories. I was just like, you know, the the and you're like, crap, like like my brain's mush right now, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I want to give you the next 2 hours of my time, but me sitting here for 2 hours isn't going to do anybody any good at this point. Like I'm just not clicking on all cylinders. So yeah, I learned earlier on, and it's something that I didn't have to do at my old company, because since I was in the field, I would take several trips into the field throughout the day out of the office and like work on stuff and work with my hands. And what I wasn't realizing at that point in time is that was like a respite from you know mental usage, right? So now I've worked that into my schedule, but there's also times where I'm just like, I need to throw my headphones on. Like, just gonna go ahead and throw my headphones on now. I'm off this call, and I've got these 3 things I need to accomplish in the next 2 hours. No one's gonna bother me. I'm gonna tune everybody out, slap on my headphones, listen to music, and I'm gonna knock these 3 things out. So I would say it's a little bit of both.
So, to a couple things on that, I've been told that I show the opposite kind of appearance at work of I internalize stressors and I kind of keep my head down and do my thing without that whole like fist on the desk or exclamation to kind of break it up and communicate with someone else.
Yeah.
And while I see that internally as he's handling his shit, he doesn't need to interface with anybody, he's got it all on lockdown, that I've been told that it's seen as apathy
Yeah.
and like a lack of passion because I'm not communicating that drive that I have internally. And that's one thing that I'm trying to figure out with like moving from one job to another, to make sure that I don't start off on that wrong foot and think that I'm the man doing whatever I need to do, but instead just seen as that kid in the corner typing away and we have no idea where he's at because we
Right.
don't know what he's working on, kind of thing.
Right. So it's funny because it you were probably, and I guess I can't really place that because you were homeschooled. Have you ever worked on like group projects with people though?
Yeah, throughout college and stuff.
So were you the person that was like in a group with other people that you didn't trust or didn't think was going to get something done, and then you would just do the project or do the majority of the work?
100%. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it in the group setting. I would essentially use the group meetings to get deliverables and then show up the next time with the results.
Right. So this is what's really interesting about that is there are like introverted and extroverted type A personalities, and people don't tend to believe that because typically when they say, "Oh, you're very type A," you're just like you're on the forefront and you're the focus, right? And you're leading it. But realistically, there are people like you and there's people like me. Both of us would do 100% of the project to get it done, but we're both going to do it in vastly different ways. Whereas I would try and be pushing it into the group, right? You would be the guy, for lack of a better phrase, like in the corner typing away, getting shit done. So I find that very interesting because a lot of times perception's reality, unfortunately. And since I'm the type of person that's with other people, I'm portrayed as a good team player. And we just talked about before this that being a team player is something I need to work on because I'm dominant over a group of people, and that's like my personality, and I do need to work on that so that we can all get things accomplished and be successful. But you're the type of person that's like away from the group, so then the immediate perception is this person doesn't want to be with a team, doesn't want to work with a group of people and stuff like that. So I find that very, very interesting.
And another issue that I ran into in my last position with my boss is she resented anyone actually having headphones in and focusing on their thing. She saw that as a lack of engagement. So if she tries to initiate a conversation, even if it's across a padded cubicle wall that kills sound, and I have hearing that's wrecked from years of concerts, if she tries to say something and I don't immediately respond back, that's seen as I don't have an ear to the street, I'm not engaged with the team, and I'm not ready to take on something if she needs to hand it to me, when all she has to do is send me a ping on Skype for Business and I can run with it and give her an A+ result in 10 minutes. And that's
Right.
another thing that I never solved before I left that job. I was only there a year, so I didn't have enough time to work through it. But it always was seen as a failure of mine, even though I was the number one performer in the department. I didn't communicate the way that she did, and that was seen as a lack of engagement. And I never really found a way to kind of work through that.
Yeah, so I would say it's a lack of leadership on her side. So as a manager, you're supposed to find ways to have all of your employees perform at their best. but that also means that everybody's different and you have to understand that. So we have a guy in our office that absolutely despises headphones, and he's the one that plays the music um, over our work desk phones. And he's like, "There's music playing. Just use that and work." And my response is like, "Yeah, but you're playing like Billy Bob, whatever country music, and that's not me. Like, I'm sorry. Occasionally, a good song comes across there, and I cut the volume on my phone up to where like it's probably louder than it should be. But if they're gonna play it on the phones, and I like the song, I'm gonna play it loud. So um, that's the other thing too is I found that if you have your headphones in, you can listen to what you want to listen to that gets you going. You're not forced to listen to a consensus choice of music or something like that. And so he's highly against that. I've never worked with him. Like I'm working with him on a presentation right now, and he's great to work with, easy to work with. But that's like his one thing is he's like, you shouldn't have your headphones in at work, and he's he doesn't like that. But to each their own, right? I still wear my headphones, and people still make comments. People, make comments, or they did when I first started working there. Like I wear white socks, and they're just like, "Oh, you wear these nice pants and these nice dress shoes with these white socks," and I'm just like, "Yeah, so what? Oh, you should get nice socks, and I know we pay you enough to get white socks." I'm like, "Yeah, I use that money for things that I want to use it for. Maybe I don't want to wear fancy ass socks. But like to me, I've been very good over the years of like not giving a crap about what other people think. Your situation is different because it was your boss, so that makes it a little bit more rough. But I would say that like having a conversation up front with your new boss and saying, "Hey, I'm okay with being engaged with the group, but I'm more of a put your head down, get crap done. I will probably have my headphones in those stages, but please feel free to like come grab me or ping me or let me know that we have a team thing going on, and I'm 100% down to cooperate. And I just to me to give you the best product, the way I work, I'm gonna throw my headphones in. I hope that's okay."
So one more tangent before we get back to kind of the mindfulness topic. When people give you comments about like the socks or the headphones, how do you not just tell them to submit all comments and complaints to 1-800 fuck off? Like that's my immediate response, and I can't do that at work, and I've never found an alternative.
So I am very fortunate. So my personality, and my snarkiness and my sarcasm is meant really well, because I'm in the construction field. So people are more, um, I don't want to say used to, but they're more attuned with responses like that. During our interview process, we literally ask people like, "Do you get offended by cussing?" Right? Because you're going to hear it in the office. You're going to hear it, especially if you go on the job site. I mean, there's some rough people out there on the job site, right? So it's just one of those things where you have a little bit more of a leeway in my profession, right? Even if you have an outburst that is um, that ends in you, like I don't know, we had a situation where somebody, not going to tell who they worked for or what project it was on or anything, but we were on a job site, and the phones were consistently giving us an issue, like our teleconference system. So this person was trying to talk. No one could hear him. It was all staticky and breaking up. So he took the speaker and he just smashed it on the desk, just completely obliterated it into pieces, chucked it across the room. And that was frowned upon. We definitely had a conversation that was like, we probably should have handled this a little better, right? And that came from higher ups, right? Probably should handle this a little bit better. And that was it. Like he apologized. Cool, let's move on. Like it is what it is. It's not like anybody was hurt or anything like that. Now we take that a lot more seriously, but yeah, crap happens, right? And it wasn't directed at a person, so it is what it is, right? We bought a new headphone. It was fine. The system still didn't work worth a damn, but we moved on. So like in my profession, you have those little concessions here and there. It's a lot easier. So when someone comes across my desk, it was my boss who said it. He was like, "Why do you always wear socks?" I'm like, "I don't give a shit what you think, man. Like, I'm here to work. Do I do a good job at work? Well, yeah. All right, then. I'm following the guidebook. The guidebook says I have to wear matching socks. They're both white. So, and I can say that, and everyone laughs, and it's cool. we keep going. Um, for you, it'd be a lot different, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, because it's corporate customer service and hospitality. I worked on a team where somebody tried to get the maintenance lady fired because the maintenance people weren't dressing to our company dress code when they were contractors. It
Yeah,
was very nitpicky. It was very PC, for lack of a better term. You can't say anything like that. So I guess I never had the outlet to ever vent, and it just built up and built up.
yeah. So what's y'all's dress code?
So it was button downs, dress shoes, slacks, belts, like
Tucked in shirt and everything.
yeah, tucked in shirt. Women's dresses have to go below the knee. It was yeah, because it was an international banking organization.
Yeah. So we're talking about finding the happiness and finding the joy in the little things. So when I first started working at my old company, or I'm sorry, at my current company, um, I had to wear long sleeves because I have tattoos on my forearms, which I understood. I took the job knowing that no problem with rules as long as they're stated up front. So I had to wear long sleeves, button up shirts, tucked in, belt, slacks, dress shoes, like you're talking about. And then we could wear jeans on Friday, and during football seasons, we could even wear football jerseys on Friday, which for me, people who know me, who know I like jerseys, that was pretty legit. I'm super. I like that. Um, and you could wear tennis shoes on Friday. So it was like a whole different thing on Friday. And man, Fridays were the best. Like I don't own jeans, but I would wear like jean, not jean khakis, but like kind of like more of like a regular khakis pants that were much more comfortable to me than dress clothes. And you didn't have to tuck your shirt in. So I'd wear like a button down shirt, but I wouldn't tuck it in. You know, wouldn't wear a belt. Um, would wear tennis shoes, and that was like the little bit of enjoyment each week because I hate dressing up. I really dislike it. But like 2 months later, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna try and be more modern as a company. You know, Friday dress. You can now dress like that every day. Don't have to wear dress clothes. You do have to wear a button-down collar shirt every day. Doesn't have to be tucked in. Um, a lot of people still dress up that way. Me, I immediately jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, ha, dress clothes are going up in the closet for good because I'm not a dress clothes guy, you know? Um, so like that enjoyment on a daily basis, I love because I get to work in an office setting. I get to go to a job site, stuff like that, which is the best of both worlds. But now I don't have to dress fancy, which is great. And I know a lot of people don't consider dressing up as like dressing fancy, but to me it absolutely is. So I find enjoyment in that for sure. What is
Now,
your well go ahead.
okay. No, I was going to segue to something else. So go ahead.
What's your dress code at your new place? Is it very similar?
They've told me that it's just button downs and comfortable pants. They
Okay.
emphasize like 3 times that I should be comfortable, which is new to me. I'm not used to any concessions being given to what I care about or how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm used to just fitting into whatever the corporate mold is. So that is very refreshing.
Nice.
But what you were saying at the end there is a perfect segue. This is a pair of questions. What is something about your routine, either professional or personal, that you feel like you don't appreciate enough? And what is something that you feel like you overvalue and put on a pedestal?
Um, I probably overvalue. I don't know. I don't know if I overvalue anything. To me, getting away during the middle of the day is very, very important to me, for being productive to the company and also for my own well-being. But I would also say like it's amazing the people that I work with. Um, I have conversations at people's desk all the time, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and it's it's hard to not have a good time at work, which is like the first time in my life where I feel that way. Um, just and it's primarily because of the people. Like things could be going bad every which way and another on one of my job sites, but like my friends at work always make me laugh. They're absolutely hilarious. We quote The Office probably way too much. Um, it is just a good atmosphere, and we absolutely like fuck with each other all day long, and like just straight up most of the time, just straight up like a holes to each other. but it's in a very funny way, and it's just absolutely hilarious. It's all like good um, camaraderie ship with just about everybody at work. There are definitely people that um, don't exude that, but that works for them. For us, it is absolutely essential that we have a good time while we're working. And this is like the first place I've worked at where we do that. So I don't want to say I overvalue that, um, but it is like the top selling point for me. Um, you said something that I undervalue and something that I overvalue.
Yeah, something you don't appreciate enough about your routine that maybe you could tap into more to kind of fuel the enjoyment of the little things.
Um, so I think I spend too much time on like Instagram, probably. So like social media, I spend a little too much time, and I've been working on backing that off. Um, so I don't get on there nearly as much as I used to, and I've tried, like I said, over the last couple weeks to get me and Tab out of the house. So I would say a couple weeks ago, I probably overvalued us just sitting here watching TV every single night because that was very comfortable and we were in a routine and we were in that routine for months. And trying to break out of that and us just doing things together like we used to. Neither one of us were unhappy, but I just felt like, hey, we're just stuck in this. I don't want to say a rut because we were still enjoying watching TV. We love watching TV together, something we've always done together. So not negatively, but it's nice to get out and go and do things like we used to. We used to go out and do stuff all the time, and we didn't have any money to do any of it. Now we have money. We should go out and do those things. And I know it's hard at the end of a long work day because you're just tired and you just want to sit down sometimes and you don't want to move. So on days like that, I absolutely intend on sitting here and watching TV with her. But on days where like you still feel it a little bit when you get home, let's just go do something. So I would say I definitely overvalued us doing nothing here on the couch except for watching TV, right? Um, Undervalue. Um, I don't know if there's anything I undervalue. I probably undervalue like just slowing down, taking a deep breath, and being in the moment. A lot of times I'm just like, I'm gonna get downstairs for this hour and I'm gonna read because I want to be in this book. But like sometimes it's nice to just sit down and people watch or like just sit down and enjoy the weather. I don't think I do that enough at all. So I probably undervalue that, especially at this time of year where the temperature is now dropping and you have these beautiful fall days coming up. And I should probably take a step back and try and focus on that. Maybe sit outside and read or just sit outside and enjoy the weather. What about you?
So, something I don't appreciate enough was something I didn't realize. It was a you don't know what you got till it's gone kind of moment. The hour commute that I had to my last job and the hour back is the only time in the entire day that I have to myself where I can control the media that I'm being exposed to, play it on a speaker, be in my own little box. And that was a dedicated 2 hour period every day, where now I'm at home all the time. Before I was at work and then at home, where everything has to be headphones or tuned into other human beings and their thoughts and wants and needs. So I definitely didn't appreciate having 2 hours a day to myself that I could use for pretty much anything as long as it only needs half my attention and I can still physically drive to work.
Right.
If we lived in a magical area coming soon where there's self-driving cars, then that's a fully engaged 2 hours. But it's still, I definitely didn't realize how much time I had to myself until I no longer have time to myself. And now the place that I'm looking up in Boston is going to have a couple of roommates. So I'm not going to have that time unless I force myself to take that time in the evening. So I got to
Right.
restructure my routine to make sure I maintain that. And something I overvalue and should probably give less of a pedestal to is how I spend my free time currently evenings, where I spend all day at work working on a computer, and then I immediately come home to my personal computer and will spend it either playing video games or working on D&D or other projects. I need to get away from a screen at a certain point, even from just a practical standpoint of avoiding migraines and headaches and eye strain, but also just diverting my attention down different paths so I'm not literally just a computer guy all the time. And while the things I do on the computer are fun, I've got to abstract from that a little bit. So that's something I definitely need to restructure.
Right, right. So like for you, if you are well, first let's walk through your daily schedule. We'll get way back to the beginning. Your daily schedule and um how you draw happiness or joy from the little things in your daily schedule.
Sure. So at least we'll take my last job routine because I've currently just been all day job searching right now.
Right.
But yeah, so I'd be up at 6:30, force down a cup of coffee as quickly as possible, uh, head out maybe 7:30, 7:45, be on the road for an hour, hour 15. That would be music, podcasts, whatever I could stream on my phone, and then a couple hours at work. I would eat at my desk and I would never leave my desk, and that was probably a detriment, but I would switch what I was doing. I would just do something on my phone, be it YouTube or music or whatever. So I was in a different headspace, but it's the same physical place. Head out at 6, another hour, hour 15, grab dinner, and then spend 2.5 hours essentially playing video games until I go to sleep. So there was not a lot of derivation. It was either eating, driving, or being in front of a computer.
So you brought up a good point. Being in a different headspace, um, do you feel like that's enough for you to get away from what you're doing, or do you
Nope.
feel no? So,
Yeah.
right. So that's what I was gonna get at, because there have been times where when I worked at my desk, for the 15 minutes I was actually shoveling food into my mouth, I would be doing something different, right? I'd be on my phone, or I'd be listening to music or a podcast or Audible or something. But being in the physical spot was just as dreadful, right? So like there was times where I was working a lot on like estimates while also finishing up a job, and you think this is crazy. Me and my buddy would just book a conference room for lunch because he was also busy. We'd walk downstairs, grab food, or bring it, and we would just move over there for an hour. And 15 minutes would be eating, right, talking, and then the next 45 minutes I was still working just like I would from my desk. I'd have my computer in there, but being in a different space, cordoned off with the door shut from the rest of the office, and just talking while working still felt much better. It wasn't quite as good as just completely getting out of the office, but it was probably 10 times better than trying to do that at my desk. So like for me, the physical or the physicality of just like leaving your office space that you spend 8, 10 hours a day in, just leaving it. Even though you're still working, just getting out of that space. So to me, it's almost more physical than it is mental. Um, so like at your new job, are you planning on trying to change that?
Yeah, the city that I'm moving to is a lot more pedestrian friendly. Where I was working in Raleigh, Durham, was essentially you had the campus that was the two office buildings and nothing within walking distance.
Okay.
So I can physically just go downstairs, walk out the door, and have restaurants around me, have parks around me. So I, within that hour, can actually have half an hour of non-work activities and still make it back in a timely manner.
Yeah, I think to the point I made earlier about not appreciating being outside enough, I can walk almost anywhere. Like I'm in downtown Columbia. Like I can walk to restaurants, coffee shops, all over the place, and I'm gonna start doing that more. And it's because especially like with the nice weather during the summer, it's not so great because it's like 105 degrees and muggy. So you kind of don't want to walk everywhere, but there's the opportunity for you to. So I definitely think that that's something I'm gonna focus on. So with your routine, if you were having a bad day, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of room in your schedule to break up the monotony. So like if you were having a bad day, what would you do to like draw on situations, or did you try and, I don't want to say falsely, but did you try and like go out of your way to create enjoyable situations that were different to try and boost your morale, to try and get you focused on the good things?
Kind of trying to find joy through association of knowing particular things, be it podcasts or music or whatever, that I could locally have that wouldn't interrupt the work of those around me, and try and just inject more of that. So instead of just having music idly on in the background, maybe listen to a couple episodes of the McElroy's Adventure Zone, where I know it's, or like another D&D actual play of something that it can get my brain at least passively thinking about something else, and creating ideas for my next campaign or a character concept that I want to work on. Anything to draw me at least mentally out of the space if I can't physically leave the space. Because I would find the closest restaurant to the office was probably Cookout, and Cookout lines at lunch are ungodly.
I bet.
So it's actually more stressful for me to leave the office, have a 60-minute timer, spend 35 of those minutes in line just to get back and have 10 minutes to shovel a $2 burger down my face and then get right back to work. And that's kind of why I stayed in the same physical space, was there was nothing relaxing that I could do outside of the office within driving range.
Right. So for you, it's your jobs is very, very structured. I'm assuming. So you work from what, 8 to 12, and then from 1 to 5, or is it 9 to? What was your
Uh,
schedule?
since it was rotating, each of us had a slightly different break, but for me, it was 9 to 12 and then 1 to 6.
9 to 12, and then 1 to 6. So you had 3 hours in the morning, and then 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah, not the best.
Ooh, so that's rough. So that's one thing. But it was like if you left at 12:05, you still had to be back by 1.
Yep.
You couldn't leave at 12:05 and be back at 1:05.
No, because it was coverage based. So essentially, I had to tag back in so someone else could get their lunch, and I was actively ruining someone else's day if I wasn't back at 1 o'clock.
Oh, so you worked with people that were like finicky about stuff like that.
My boss was very insistent on punctuality since we did have a rotating schedule.
Very, very rules and structured based. Okay, so that's probably something that I don't appreciate enough, honestly, because I don't ever think about it. But like at my job, you just, as long as you get your work done, and as long as you spend at least 40 hours there a week, right, which is super easy. Um, you're kind of free to do what you need to do, which is really, really nice. Now, I mean, obviously, you can't take the ball and just run with it, right? You don't want them to give you an inch and you try and take a mile. But like, if I want to have breakfast with my wife one morning and I don't get in the office until 8:30 or whatever, like we work from 8 to 5, and you're supposed to have your lunch break from 12 to 1, technically. It's never been like that. I get into work some days at 6:30, 7, 7:30. I always am in by 8. There's like 2 times where I did sit behind and have breakfast with Tab when she was at her old job, and I would get in at like 8:05. Um, but like you have to be there for your meetings. Um, but like outside of that, it's like most of the time I take my lunch break from 11:30 to 12:30, because I'm hungry by 11:30. Sometimes we leave at 11:15, come back at 12:15. But like if we were to go to lunch and take an hour and 15 lunch, or even an hour and a half lunch, there's no one there. Like when you get back with the timer, it's like, what are you doing? Because like I don't think there's anyone in our office that only works 40 hours. So like we're sitting there, we're working whatever, 45, 50, 55, 60 hours a week, right? And it varies based on what stage of a project you're in, how many people you have on your team, right? Stuff like that. But it's sometimes you need to work through lunch, or sometimes you need to take an early lunch or a late lunch, or if you have a doctor's appointment, or next month I've got to renew my tag, which in the state of South Carolina, it is the worst process. I absolutely hope somebody from the state is listening to this. It's a terrible process. A 9-year-old could figure out a better process. Very upset about this. So on that day, I will have to listen to music, and most likely it will absolutely be Flocka, because I will just be amped on that day. But you have to go like 3 different places to renew your tag, and of course they're not all in the same building. They're like all the way across Columbia, so it's like a 2-hour process. So I also have to get food. So you try and be appropriate, right? If you're going to take a 2-hour appointment, like get lunch while you're out and then eat it at your desk, right? So it'll probably be a 2.5-hour trip, and I won't get my hour of downtime in the middle of the day because I'll be driving all over the place, grabbing food on the go. But that's fine as long as you communicate that to your team and they know where you're at. You put it on your calendar. It is what it is. So I probably don't appreciate that enough, because I always tend to forget that there are people who are like, your lunch is from 12 to 1, and that's what it is, and you got to figure it out, because that seems rough.
Now, one thing I'm thinking of, after you finished working at Pizza and Jimmy John's, have all your positions been salaried since then?
No, so when I worked on the road, I was hourly, which was terrific. But there, I got written up one time, and it was absolutely absurd. I left at 12:05, and I came back at like 12:04. Or I'm sorry, I left at like 12:05 and came back at like 1:04 or whatever. So it was less than an hour break, but I came back after one, and there was a construction manager who did not like me for whatever reason. Because we never talked. It was like my first week there, and like the closest place to eat was Subway, and it was literally 30 minutes away. So me and Denzel hopped in his Camaro and we're like flying to get there in 25 minutes so that we could get our subs made, and then flying to get back in 25 minutes, right? And we made it. We even high-fived as we were walking in the gate. So then he comes over to me. He's like, "I've got to dock you a half hour because you were late getting back from lunch." I'm like, "We didn't leave until 12:05." He's like, "That doesn't matter. It's 12 to 1, and you're an hourly employee, so you need to be paying attention to stuff like that." And I was like, "I was," and it was 59 minutes. So, like, now you just wasted my last minute of lunch trying to talk to me about this, and probably not the best. Like, I actually said that. Probably not the best thing I could have said. So then he like went and talked to my boss. So my boss comes over to me, and they're both very, very much sticklers for these dumb rules. But it was something that stuck with me. So like they ended up docking me 30 minutes, which was, and I did exactly what everyone else did when they got docked 30 minutes. That's fine. I'm not working for the next 30 minutes then.
Yeah, not working for free. That's against federal labor
Yeah.
regulations.
So I'm gonna sit here. Don't talk to me because I'm not getting paid. So I'm gonna sit here. But the part that pissed me off the most is I got there to work 30 minutes early every single day. If our shift started at 7, I was there by 6:25, and I would work and not get paid for it. So that stopped, and I was pretty pissed off about it. So then when I was managing a job out in California, we had a guy and his wife come in 5 minutes late. They got stuck in traffic right outside of LA. I mean, okay, yeah, not a problem. And my boss comes over to me. He's like, "You're gonna dock them both 30 minutes." I'm like, "Man, if I go over there and say you're docked for 30 minutes, okay, they're gonna go back and sit in their vehicle. So now I've lost 30 minutes of productivity. Okay, they're gonna be pissed off for the rest of the day. Not gonna want to do anything. So their productivity during the day goes down." They already told me that back then you had a 15-minute morning break and a 15-minute afternoon break and a 30-minute lunch break. Okay, when we were in California, I said they've already told me they're going to work through both of their 15-minute breaks. So now they're 5 minutes late. They're going to work an additional 30 minutes. We just gained 25 minutes, and they're happy and apologetic people. Okay, now their productivity throughout the day is not even going down, and we're gaining 25 minutes. It's a win-win. Why be an asshole and dock them on a rule that's just way too structured? Okay, I'm not a rules guy. So he was like, "Dock him 30 minutes." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." I did not dock them that 30 minutes. And they came back in during lunch and like shook my hand, thanked me. They're like, "Yeah, we really appreciate it. We know Carl was in here and this and that." And I was just like, that's dumb. Just do simple math. Like, be logical when you make decisions like that. You know, for me, I'm a very productive person at work. If you start trying to shut me down with rules and say, "I'm gonna dock you a half hour because you're 5 minutes late," I'm one of those people that's like, "Fine, fuck it. I'll get here right at 7:59, and I'll work until 12, and I'm gonna be pissed off about it. So I'm not gonna be very productive, and then I'm gonna get my lunch from 12 to 1, and I'm gonna eat a lot of food so that I'm really sleepy the rest of the day, and I'm not gonna get anything done in the afternoon either. And then guess what? At 4:59, I'm gonna put stuff in my bag and I'm gonna walk out the door, regardless of whether I'm done with my work or not." Now I'm salary now, and because of this looseness of my schedule, there was like 3 days this week where I was out past 6 p.m. working. Didn't have to be, right? No one could really say anything to me if I went home at 5, right? I got there early every day, but I'm happy about it because no one's sitting there with a stopwatch. And I don't think I appreciate that enough. But I also think that those are some really dumb rules in most cases.
Now, a perfect tangent from that, I can't speak to as much as you can because I haven't made it to the project manager or team lead role yet. But so we've talked a lot about our own routines and the little things that kind of rejuvenate us. How do you make your team's day on a day-to-day basis? Because obviously that's a special case where you improve their morale through kind of taking the burden of bending that rule and you put it on your back instead of theirs. But just when something hasn't gone wrong, how do you kind of work to improve team morale and do the little things for them?
Yeah, so I preach to my team the same thing that I preach to Tab. So we're a team, and I absolutely think that all kids should play sports at some point in time in their life with a good coach. Because my coach always preached, you win as a team and you lose as a team. Because in the way he would say it, that made sense. Because not everyone pulls the same weight on a team, especially in sports, but most teams in real life, not everyone pulls the same weight. But what he said that made the biggest difference to me was, guess what? Doesn't matter who does what. Absolutely does not matter who does what. If we win, everybody on that team gets that W. If we lose, everybody on that team gets that L, right? Does not matter how much weight they pull, okay? And he said, think about it this way. If you're carrying the brunt of the load and you're carrying more, it's typically because you can, and it's typically because you're better suited to do it than somebody else on that team. I said, okay, so that makes sense. But then he went on to say it. He said, think about those people that are on your team who want to contribute in any way they can, but they can't. You're carrying that W for those people, but you're also carrying that L for those people. People who may not ever be able to experience being as good at something as you are. So that played to me because I absolutely love helping people who can't help themselves. So like it really worked for me, but it's really true. Not everyone can do what Taylor Hall can do. And if you're put on a team with people who can't necessarily achieve everything that you can achieve, you have to be a better manager and you have to figure out what ways they can help you. But you also have to realize that you're carrying that team's W and you're also carrying that team's L on your shoulder, you know? So I absolutely think that preaching the fact that we're going to win and lose together helps because nobody wants to lose, right? So then when you get into arguments with people on your team, if you can always resort back to that and think, he wants to win just as badly as I do, and we're probably arguing over semantics, we're probably arguing over the finer details. If we just realize that we're both on the same team and come to an agreeable solution, we're all going to win. So I preach the teamwork thing all the time. I also preach that, like, even if I'm not there, I'm there. So call me, right? You need help with anything, call me. It doesn't matter if I've left for the day. I'll answer the phone. Um, and so that's the second thing I preach is like I'm always there, and I try and lead by example so that there are people on my team that are literally in the office when you get there and when you leave, and that works for them. Does not necessarily work for me. But I take my laptop with me. I have that. I don't intend to work from home because I don't like working from home. I'd rather stay late and try and keep it separate. But things happen. I've got it to where I can be there and help you if I need to be there and help you, you know. And I've gone back into work after I went home. I went back to the office on two separate occasions where that was what was needed. So you have to be available. And then the third thing is we have to have fun. So if somebody feels bogged down, like I was telling you beforehand, before we started, if somebody's feeling bogged down or feeling like they're drowning, that's the terminology we use a lot. Hey, do you feel like you're barely afloat? Do you feel like you're doggy paddling just to keep your head above water? And if they say yes, okay, good. That's how we all feel. We're going to keep going. But if you feel like you're drowning or if you feel like your head is dipped below water one too many times, then we need to figure out how we can reposition this stuff, right? So, you know, you have 6 calls you got to make today. Okay, I'll stay an extra couple hours to work on busy work at the end of the day, and I'll make some of those phone calls right now. to help you out. You can't always do that, but I can tell you right now, doing it here and there when you can, that's a bright moment in their day. The APM I'm working with on my current project said he was so ecstatic yesterday because like we've been pushing him to get numbers in by yesterday, and he got them in yesterday, and like he was like stoked, right? We set a goal for him, he achieved it, but like we also stayed in constant communication about where are you at in the process. Are you drowning? Do you need help? And we were lucky that we had someone else in the office that helped him with a couple of things. So like we were able not necessarily to leverage our own time, but as managers leverage his time and give him help, you know? So those are the three things that I preach that in my opinion help people on my team find the joy in what we do, because we all enjoy what we do. Sometimes we overlook it, sometimes we don't focus on that, but those three things are the three things that I try and preach.
Now, how do you keep yourself from becoming drained when you have to overextend to keep your employee morale up and to keep them from drowning? How do you make sure that you, as the captain, also stay above water?
um so that's a difficult one for me because I don't experience stress in the same way. So I've always been a let's hammer this out until we get it done and then move on to the next goal. Trying to make sure that I keep my head above water. I
Like, do
don't.
you ever feel aggravated that you are doing busy work for somebody, even for it's a good cause? Or do you just see it as you come in to do work for the team as the team lead, no matter what that work is?
Yeah, so I feel comfortable doing busy work. I feel comfortable writing contracts, calling people, doing all that stuff. Um, I get frustrated more at when I don't see progress. So like I am a big picture. I need to see the needle moving towards completion. So that's been difficult. I talked to my boss on Wednesday or Thursday about it, and I was like, I'm burnt out. Like I'm in 20 hours now of meetings every single week to talk about all these little details, and I focus on those details because I know they're big picture dollar things, but there's such finite details. Like I'll focus on them because I know I need to, but that's not really what I enjoy doing. I like the problem solving aspect. So like when big things come across my desk, that excites me, and like when we get construction going, because it never goes the way you plan. So then you got to problem solve quick. So I love that. That's like absolutely my favorite part. Um, so right now, since we're in the pre-construction phase, and I'm having 20 hours of meetings a week where we just talk about these small little finite details, and I understand that they're important, but it's been wearing on me. So I talked to him and I was like, look, man, the needle's not moving. He's like, okay, so what can we do to move the needle? And I was like, damn it, why didn't I think about it? Like I'm so in the weeds that I didn't even think to come out the weeds to be like, all right, to hell with all these meetings. Like, how do I find a way to just move that needle a little bit so that I feel like I've done something, accomplished something, and then I can get back in the weeds? And I was like, you're absolutely right. So my response to that was the best way that we can move that needle is let's get these 5 people on a phone call. So now I'm gonna have another meeting at the beginning of next week, but he's like, just run with it that way. So I'm gonna start the meeting off by saying, guys, we're not leaving this meeting until we determine this, this, and this. Because if we determine these 3 things, I can release this design and I can submit this for permit. And guess what? I can have somebody on site the following week moving dirt. Okay, the needle has moved. All right, so now I get to have this meeting next Monday or Tuesday, and I'm excited to actually have that meeting because at the end of that meeting, we're going to be moving that needle. And so sometimes it's all about taking a step back. And I didn't even come to that conclusion myself. And normally I am a big picture guy, but I've been in the weeds for 3 or 4 weeks now, and I just have not pulled back to see the big picture. So talking to my boss, talking to people with experience who've been there. And me and my boss, by the way, have opposite personalities, completely 180. But that's probably why he's has as much experience as he does and is such a good manager, is because he knows that and he immediately had a response for me. It's like, all right, awesome. Let's go with that. So I would say trusting your team, for me, and me trying to stay above water is like finding those moments where I can move the needle.
I think a gem out of that story and a good way to wrap this is context and perspective are a really good way to appreciate the little things when that kind of joy of the everyday routine starts to fade a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I'm tired of having meetings, but now I'm excited to have a meeting. If so,
Yep.
it's all, you're right, absolutely all about context, and very much so about perception. Perception is reality. So, um, yeah, it's finding what works for you. Me, it's moving that needle and just finding a way to move that needle. For you, what is that for you?
Um, I think it would be a little less actually moving the needle, but more about putting together the deliverables to have the plan so I can start running 100 miles an hour. Because it's less the doing and more the planning that I find satisfaction in things.
So,
Actually getting the thing done doesn't actually matter to me in the long run.
so, if you're not on the market for hire anymore, but good God, can we work on a team together? Like,
Yeah.
because it seems like everything I dislike, or not, I don't want to say dislike, I find importance in, but I personally don't like turning that gear, is what you enjoy, and then I enjoy the other side. So, um, maybe that's why this works so well. I don't know.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts?
No, I would say you hit it on the head. If people are listening, and they're trying to find enjoyment in their life, it just take a step back and just find moments throughout the day that naturally make you smile and naturally make you feel joy, and focus on those. Take a step back, take a moment. Time magazine actually had an article about this, I don't know, a couple months ago, and they're literally they just said, find those moments that are naturally there, take a deep breath, enjoy that moment, because a lot of times we're multitasking and we're not focusing 100% on any individual task. Well, if we find enjoyment in that task and we're multitasking, most of the time you just go back to your other task. Take a second, enjoy it, live in that moment, and then moving forward, try and recreate those moments. Find out what works best for you, and then try to, artificially plug those in throughout your day, right? Like like earlier, like we was talking about, I enjoy reading. So I artificially plug times in my schedule throughout the day where I can read, because I have found over the course of 26 years, those are moments that I enjoy. So I artificially now try and plug them in my day.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us on this second Universal Deep Dive. And remember, there's no universal answers to the universe. No Universal Answers to the Universe is an interview series by Taylor Hall and Kenneth Givens, which releases on YouTube and all podcast platforms every Monday. If you have any questions or would be interested in being a guest on the show, please contact us at nouniversalanswers@gmail.com or via our Instagram page at no_universal_answers. Thank you for listening and have a great night.